ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ मंत्र 3 तस्माद्वा इन्द्रः अतितराम् इव अन्यान् देवान् सह्य एनन्नेदिष्ठं पस्पर्श सह्येनत्प्रथमो विदाञ्चकार ब्रह्मेति. So we know very well that Indra got a teaching from Uma about the yaksha. What was the nature of yaksha, etc. Well, he came to know through Uma, the Brahma Vidya, and then Indra taught this knowledge to Agni and Vayu, and Indra remains a very most exalted among all the devas. That is what it has been said here. Tasmadva Indraha atitaram iva anyan devan atitaram. So Indra indeed is more exalted than other two devas, Agni and Vayu. Sahya enam, and the reason is given here. Sahya enam nedishtam pasparsha. Indra excels all the devas because of what? He came in close contact with the yaksha. So by the grace of the same yaksha in the form of Brahma Vidya, he learnt what the yaksha was, and Uma taught him very well that you all are existent and you all are functioning because of the presence of Brahman, and therefore whatever victory you have got, that's due to Brahman alone. So Indra was the first one to receive this knowledge, and therefore he is the most exalted among them, among the devas. So even though all the other devas who received this knowledge are also jnanis, but still Indra continues to be the recipient of the worship from other devas because he came to know first. He came in close contact with the yaksha, the Brahman or the Parameshwara, and therefore by the grace of yaksha, of course, he gained the knowledge also, and so he is most exalted. That's what it says here in this mantra. Now this interesting story implies that these devas like Indra, could not and did not know until they were taught. And so at the same time, this the Brahman as such is, as Atma it is Prasiddham. As I am, it is Prasiddham. Same Brahman as in the story, same Brahman as Yaksha, it is Prasiddham. They all were able to see him. So it is Prasiddham. It is not that it was totally unknown. That was not the thing. And as such, in the Shastra also it has been Prasiddham. Ishvara is a Prasiddham. That all that is here is ultimately Ishvara. That's what we learn also. But still it is Gney. All that is here is Ishvara means basically what you see, what you hear, what you smell, etc. is Ishvara. Okay, that's fine. But still, actually, what you see has a certain basis. That is the truth of it. And what you see is basically mithya. That is also his, of course, he is Ishvara, Saguna Ishvara, but that is not his real nature. His real nature is something distinct from it, and that is limitless Brahman, and that is to be known. And therefore, same way, Yaksha also was seen by everybody, all the devatas, but still, what was the nature of Yaksha? What is the truth of this Yaksha, this form? Well, has to be known. That's how one after the other devatas also approached, and they failed. Ultimately, Uma gave the knowledge to them. So what it means here is that, it is Samanyena Prasiddha. Yaksha was known in general. Samanyena Prasiddha, in general it is evident. Yaksha was evident to everyone. So it is called Samanya Prasiddhi. Prasiddhi means evident. Prasiddha means evident. And Samanyena Prasiddha means basically evident in general that it is Yaksha, like that. But Visheshataha, in particular, it is not known as that it is limitless Brahman, and being limitless, it is present in present in us also as a I, etc. And not only that, because of whom we devas are the devas, our existence is because of because of the Brahman, and not only that, all our senses, etc. are functioning, and that is due to our all activity is due to the presence of Brahman, etc. So that they were not knowing. So this is exactly like Samanya Prasiddhi Visheshataha Aprasiddham. Generally evident, but not evident in particular. And in that case, when such a situation is there, then the mistake occurs. And therefore, if somebody has to taught you, has to teach you, otherwise it would not be it would not be known. So when anything which is evident in general but not evident particularly, what is its real nature is not evident, then definitely mistake will occur. And then locus of that mistake is called adhara. That's how we say. So even the rope also is prasiddham, evident, in general, as what? This. When you say this, you are really referring to rope only. So rope, but visheshataha prasiddham. So you are not knowing that it is rope, and therefore then what is evident in general becomes a locus for the mistake, and that's how you connect it, this locus, with the mistake. What is that? This is snake. So this is actually a rope only, but evident, but in general, and that this now joins with the mistake. So this is snake. So you would join with the wrong perception. And of course, when the knowledge of the object takes place, then definitely you will, the notion regarding that object or the superimposed object, etc., or the wrong perception goes away. So in the wake of knowledge of this adhishthanam, the superimposed object disappears. And then this joins with now adhishthanam for one to say this is rope. Earlier this is snake. So this means I have told you, which is this means evident. Evident, but in general it is evident. Not as a rope it is evident. And so particularly it was not evident. Then this becomes a locus for the mistake. So I superimpose snake upon that. And then of course in wake of the knowledge of the rope, that superimposed snake goes away. So we call that rope as a adhishthanam. So adhara joins now adhishthanam. This, that is adhara, earlier which was a locus for a mistake, now that joins with the adhishthanam. So now you say this is rope. Earlier you were saying this is snake. Now you are saying this is rope. What is common? This is. So that is evident. That is a rope only. Otherwise, suppose this is also belongs to the snake, then snake goes away, then this is also goes away. But that doesn't happen. So this is a evident, but in general it is evident. Earlier, that has become a locus for a mistake. So what we call it as a adhara. And now in wake of the knowledge of a rope, that snake goes away. that rope is called Adhishthanam. And so now that Adhara joins, this is joined to Adhishthanam called rope. So we say this is rope. Same thing happens here. Well, the self-evident Atma, but Swamiji, how it is connected to story? Story means Yaksha. Everyone knew Yaksha in general, that this is Yaksha. But what was his real nature? In particular, what is the truth of this form of the Yaksha, etc.? That was not known to the Devatas, etc. And that was known later by through the help of Uma, etc., Brahma Vidya. And then they came to know the reality. Anyway, so here also, in our case also, the self-evident Atma, I am. Like there, this is. In case of rope snake, it is this is. In case of us, it is I am. That is Adhara, locus. Why? Because we commit a mistake. Because I don't know what I am in particular. I am Brahman, but I don't know. Then I am, which is evident as Atma is evident as I am, becomes a locus for a mistake, and therefore you continue and you complete the sentence. You won't keep it I am as it is. You say I am human being, I am this, I am that, I am male, I am a householder, etc., etc. And I am that, and I'm good, bad, whatever. So I am ignorant, I am knowledgeable, I am engineer, I am this. So many things. All this is superimposition. On what? On I am. Well, just as snake is superimposed upon this is, same way this human being and this male and female and all this is superimposed upon I am. Because I am is basically Atma is evident, but not that is evident in general, not evident in particular. I am Brahman, that is a reality, but I don't know it. And so I am samsari, in short, I am samsari, and that samsari is a superimposition. So I am becomes a Adhara. I am becomes Adhara. And in the vision of the Shruti, now I know I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And then I definitely, I don't claim now that I am a samsari. The samsaritvam goes away. Just as snake goes away, same in the wake of knowledge of rope, same way in the wake of knowledge of Brahman, that is myself, I now don't claim that I am samsari, that I am a samsari. The samsari goes away. And therefore, the Brahman is called Adhishthanam, just as rope is called Adhishthanam. Here Brahman is called Adhishthanam. In wake of this knowledge of Brahman, all the superimpositions centered on the self, all the wrong notions centered on the self go away. So, definitely this is how we have to understand. Of course, but you need a pramana, that is Brahma Vidya, that is Uma is required. Otherwise, you will not know who that Yaksha is. Same way, I am basically Brahman, but I don't know. In wake of knowledge, of course, through the Brahma Vidya, external means, of course, definitely, external means Shastra and teacher. I also come to know that I am Brahman, and in wake of that knowledge, the samsaritvam, goes away. And so, and here, of course, we should remember that I am Brahman, that is Satyam Jnanavandam Brahma, but Brahman cannot be objectified because Brahman is the nature, the Swarupa or the Adhishthanam of the samsari. And so, and the knowledge of this Adhishthanam is called Vishesha Jnanam. To gain that knowledge, of course, alone is one's pursuit of a pramana. So, this is regarding, because since it is, the Brahman is my own nature, therefore I cannot come to know on my own. In case of rope snake, it is okay. I only, because it is regarding other than me. So the snake is also an object, and of course now I say it is a rope also is an object. But here I am, it is very subject, and therefore definitely some external means are required. So knowledge that the self-evident Atma is Brahman takes place as a result of one's exposure to Shruti Pramana, where as I told you, it's external means. So our pursuit is only to gain this knowledge of this Adhishthanam, that is Brahman, which removes this samsaritvam superimposed upon the I am or the Atma, the Adhara basically. So now Adhara, I am, joins with the Adhishthan called Brahman. When I am, then I am Brahman is not known. If I don't know in particular myself, then I am, which is a general knowledge, about myself, well, becomes a locus for all the superimpositions, all the wrong notions, and that is what under the ignorance everyone, holds. Ultimately, it goes right in wake of knowledge of Brahman. So, story is narrated only to tell what exactly happens when one wants to see Brahman. So, Indra went to see Brahman. Well, and it disappeared from this sight naturally. Because yet chakshusha na pashyati, yena chakshumshi pashyati, by whose presence the eyes see. And itself, one does not see by the eyes. So, because of because of the presence of whom eyes are able to see. And therefore, eyes cannot see Brahman. So, eyes cannot directly see the source of light, because of which alone the eyes can see. Like eyes cannot directly see the sunlight. Eyes can see only the reflected light. Sunlight means directly one cannot see the sun. Even though one tries to see, but if you keep on seeing like that, the eyes will get damaged. So generally, eyes cannot directly see the sunlight, they can only see the reflected light. So and here of course now that is the example of the lightning here that comes in the next mantra. Like a flash of lightning, Indra thought he saw the Yaksha, and that is Saguna Brahma of course. But when he wanted to know more about that, the Yaksha, then he disappeared like a lightning. So Yaksha just appeared and disappeared. So Yaksha appeared, and then Indra wanted to know further about that Yaksha, what that form is, what is the truth of that Yaksha, from where he has come, etc. etc. He wanted to know. But then Yaksha just disappeared like a lightning. In a lightning you know something, but before you know further, before you know particular things about that thing, it just vanishes. So now that Yaksha is compared with the lightning. Now in the next mantra, and that we will see now. Tasyaisha adeshaha yadetad vidyutaha vyadyutat a iti inyam mimishad a iti adidaivatam. It's a typical mantra, I will explain you. So tasya esha adesha, first knowing this Brahman is like seeing a flash of lightning. Knowing Brahman is like Brahman means here Yaksha actually. So it's like seeing a flash of lightning. It's just a paroksha jnanam, and paroksha jnanam of this Brahman is not possible, because Brahman has been presented in the Shastra as a self, and one cannot have a paroksha jnanam or an indirect knowledge of the self, because self is immediate, self is aparoksha, and therefore one cannot gain the knowledge of a immediate self or the Brahman in terms of indirect knowledge. So that is just a Shraddha. Like one studies, throughout several years, one will know that there is Brahman, that is consciousness, etc. That is called Atma. That kind of a clarity one can definitely gain. That is called Shraddha or a Paroksha Jnanam, of course. But it is basically nature of Brahman is the self, and which is self-evident. So you don't require actually any other means of knowledge. And therefore, Paroksha Jnanam, etc. is not possible. In case of other things, it is possible. Like when one sees a smoke on the distant hill, one can infer that there is fire. And that is Paroksha Jnanam of a fire through the indirect, through inference. So inference gives you a indirect knowledge. But there in that case, of course, it is final and conclusive. If the inferential basis is very free from any defect. So this is called Paroksha Jnana. of a fire. That is possible. But there is no Paroksha Jnanam of Brahman as such, because Brahman happens to be the you. And you are not Paroksham to yourself. You are, Aparoksham. You are immediate to yourself. And so Paroksha Jnanam of Brahman, which is presented in the Shastra as Atma only, and so that is Paroksha Jnanam, or indirect knowledge of Brahman, is not possible, or the self is not possible. So, if one goes to the Shastra with a desire to know Atma and learns that the self is Paroksham, then Paroksham Brahma, etc., means you won't know Brahman at all. In that case, you lose yourself. So, Brahman knowledge is Aparoksha Jnanam, and Aparoksham means not Paroksham, and that is self-evident. One has to remember, Aparoksham is not equal to Pratyaksham. Generally, sometimes they use like that. But we have to make it ourselves very clear that Aparoksham means self-evident, which does not require any means of knowledge to make it evident. That is called Aparoksham. That's all. Even so, Pratyaksham, what you know through perception, also needs a means of knowledge called senses, sense organs. Without sense organs, you cannot see the color or a form of an object. So the color of the object, form of the object becomes evident to you through the means of knowledge called eyes. And therefore we call that that object, we call it as a Pratyaksham. So we perceive the object. And so object has become evident in terms of color or form, whatever, through the eyes. And so you need a help of eyes. So all these objects, we call them then Pratyaksham. Sound and this color and touch and everything. They are all not self-evident. They are evident through the means of knowledge called sense organs. And Paroksham, of course, we just saw, indirect knowledge also can occur with the help of mind. Inference and presumption, and then illustration, or even sometimes words also can give you indirect knowledge. So that is possible. And but of course Atma, the one who is in the form of a knower itself, it is Aparoksham. It is self-evident. And therefore what is self-evident does not require any means of knowledge to make it evident. Self-evident is self-existent because it doesn't require any means of knowledge to prove its existence. What is self-evident? What is evident by itself, it proves its existence also itself. And therefore, what is self-evident is self-existent. What is self-existent is self-evident. Whereas, you know the object or form of object, color of object through the means of knowledge. And thereby you say the object is. So, existence also is proved through the evidence. And evidence is proved through the means of knowledge. And therefore, anything which is inert, in the creation, other than Atma, everything, entire Anatma Prapancha is not self-evident. It is evident to the conscious being, ultimately. Because means of knowledge, of course, makes it evident and proves their existence. But means of knowledge themselves they are able to grasp a form or a sound or anything, when they are conscious. And that consciousness is borrowed from the Atma. So ultimately, entire Anatma Prapancha is one which is evident to the conscious being. Entire existence of the entire Anatma Prapancha, entire inert world, is evident to the conscious being. And therefore that conscious being must be self-evident. It doesn't require any other means of knowledge or something to make it evident or to prove its existence. Atma proves its own existence. Other than Atma, everything proves existence through the conscious being. If conscious being is not there, one cannot prove the existence. Anyway, so this is how I am self-existent, self-evident. Anyways, that's called Aparoksham. No means of knowledge required. Not even perception, no inference, no. And behind all this means of knowledge, in fact, as a knower, I am there. As a Pramata, I am there to utilize, to operate all these means of knowledge. And therefore, never try to see Atma through the, in the mind, through the thought or something. Never try to. You will fail. Basically, what you know in as an object in the mind is an inert thing, because it is not revealing. Unless a thought occurs in your mind, a object does not reveal itself. No object reveals to you. You cannot know any object unless it becomes evident to you. It becomes to conscious being through a thought or any other thing, through perception, and then ultimately in form of thought. And therefore consciousness proves its own existence, and therefore self-evident. And therefore I cannot see myself like that. Just as I am seeing a clip, I cannot see myself. Then if I see myself like this, then you require another knower. You require another knower to see, basically. Once you say, I have seen Atma, then that Atma is Anatma, basically. So, nature of Atma is such, which is self-evident. Then what is this knowledge? That's what we are discussing, and it is coming also. And knowledge is nothing but drop the notion. Basically, you drop the notion regarding yourself. Anyway, so I am always Nitya Paroksham Brahma. There is no way of my missing myself. Being Brahma. I cannot miss myself. I can miss any other thing in the world. I, the subject, cannot miss anything. To say I am missing myself, you require yourself, basically. And therefore, you cannot miss. That is self-evidence. So even if I do not know, well, I am Brahman, that's a fact that I have to know. Knowing the fact, you will enjoy the life. Without knowing the fact, well, you cannot enjoy life. You enjoy your freedom, basically. You enjoy your independence, your freedom, and you are free. So better know. And if you are free and you take yourself as a bound person, well, the life becomes a bondage. So better you know. That's what you are. Even if you don't know, you will not that you become a Brahman. It is not like that. And by knowing a Brahman becomes Brahman, that is also not there. You are Brahman and you will be Brahman. Even after 10 lives, you have also, up to 10 lives, you also 10 janmas. If you don't know yourself, still you will remain Brahman. You were Brahman, you are Brahman, and you will be Brahman. Nothing to worry about. Because Brahman cannot become Abrahman and Abrahman cannot become Brahman. Atma cannot become Anatma and Anatma cannot become Atma. That category is there. One is Mithya and one is Satyam. One is all the time dependent for existence and one is self-existent. That one cannot change. That is the nature. And therefore, even if you don't know, well, you will be Atma of the consciousness, limitless consciousness. You are, you are in your glory. Sve mahimne tishtati. Chandogya Upanishad in Bhuma Vidya, it is told like this. Sve mahimne tishtati. One remains in one's glory. If you know, well, you can really revel in yourself. Atmaratihi, Atmakridaha. So, what is that? Yastvatmaratihi, Atmakridaha, etc. etc. Atmatruptasya manavaha, etc. In chapter 3, Bhagavan said that. So, well, Atmani evacha santushtaha, tasya karyam na vidyate. So, if you know, well, you can revel in yourself all the time. You revel in limitlessness, and that is the glory, and that is what we want. I don't want any kind of limitation, and I want to revel into limitlessness. And you can revel. And that Atma is very subject, and it is self-evident. You cannot miss it also. I am missing because of the ignorance. Anyway, so that is a fact, well, I have to know. So, and here, now they are teaching this, with Upama Upadesha. So, the teaching of the Brahman is here given through the comparison. Upama means comparison. Comparison with the lightning. So, example is lightning. So, Tasya Esha Adesha. Let's see the mantra. Tasya Esha Adesha. Tasya means of that Brahman. This is Adesha. This is the teaching. This is the teaching through, this is the teaching of Brahman through some illustration. What is the illustration? Lightning. So this is a teaching through an illustration of the Brahman, which was understood by Indra and other devatas, and it has been given here in the form of a comparison with the lightning. What is that? Yat etat vidyutaha vyat Vyadyutada A. So Vyadyutada A. A means here it has been shown as a pluta. You find the 3 is there. So basically it is called pluta. We have matras, These are all pertaining to phonetics basically. And in phonetics there are several things. There is a swara and then matra and santana, etc. And what is that? So varna, swara, matra, balam, sama, santana. Six things are there. In Taittiriya it has been described in the first Shikshavalli itself. Varna, swara, matra, balam, sama, santana. So varna means basically varnyate anena iti varna. All these are varnas, our vyanjanam and swaras, etc. They are all called varnas. And then varna swara. And they have then swara also is there. We have then matra also. Matra means basically the length of pronunciation. And swara I have told you anudata, uddata, etc. That is in Veda, of course. So all these phonetics in connection with the Veda. So varna basically of two types, swara and vyanjanam, that is consonants and vowels. And then that other swara, varna swara, matra, balam, sama, santana. So that swara is a Vedic swara. Like in music you have swaras, saregama, padanisa, etc. Same way in Vedic chanting also there is a swara called anudata, uddata and sarita. And then varna swara, matra. Matra means a length of pronunciation of that varna. So like this, 3 are there. So the unit of pronunciation is 1, that's called rasva. Unit of pronunciation 2 called dirgha, rasva and dirgha. And unit of pronunciation 3, more than 2, that's called pluta. So that is used here. So Vyadyutada and then A. So A is that elongated, so having 3 matras, that's the unit of length in pronunciation. So this is said here. And why they have used this pluta here? We are aware of only rasva and dirgha. Why this pluta is there? So meaning of this pluta is in the sense of eva, like. So it indicates a upama. Eva means in illustration. So illustration of a vidyut or lightning is given, so it has been used like that. Anyway, I will tell you the other factors also of that phonetics. I have told you about varna, swara, matra and then balam. Balam means an effort. Effort to pronounce a varna. It is very, very essential. Otherwise you will pronounce wrongly. You see, we have a vargas, class. Ka varga and pa varga and cha varga and ta varga and ta varga. So ka, kha, gha, gha, gha. Right? Now all are called gutturals. So they are all have a origin in your kantha. It comes from the kantha, from the neck. And ultimately all have a same origination. If all have a same origination, then all will be ka 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 only. But why there is a change? Because while uttering a second letter, you bring out little more effort. You bring out little more air. I will show you how. Like you utter ka, right? Okay. Now I want to utter kha. Definitely you see, you will have to bring out little more air. Ka. More than while pronouncing ka, you also bring out some air. But while pronouncing ka, you bring out little more air. Then only ka will come, otherwise it will not come. And that is how, this is how, ka, kha, ga, gha, etc. So that is, the effort. Balam means effort. Effort to utter a particular letter is different. And therefore these are all angas of phonetics. So ka, kha, varna, swara, matra, balam and sama. Yeah, sama means definitely a space between the letters should be uniform. It should be uniform. Why? Because sometimes it happens, like, let's say Shravanam. Shravanam, right? Okay. Now Shravanam, now first Shra should be pronounced and then there is a little gap. Then Va will be pronounced, then little gap. Then Ana will be pronounced and then Makara. Now if you miss it, that length in between the pronunciation of letters will not be equal. And sometimes then the letters will be joined or sometime more space. Then that is not correct. Shrana. It has for Shrana. So that Shra and Va as though joined. Sama means a space between the pronunciation of letters should be uniform. That's all. Not too much. If it is too much, one will not understand. Shra, Va, Anam. So you will not understand. You want to understand Shravanam means I have not to keep a long gap between the pronunciation of letters. And it should not be too close also. Then also one cannot understand. This is called Sama. This is very important in phonetics. And ultimately Santanaha means Sandhi. Sandhi. And that is to be whenever it should be required. So definitely Mahaishaha, 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 Mahaishaha. No, say Maheshaha. Ho gaya, काम. Mahaishaha, Mahaishaha. What Mahaishaha? Mahaishaha. Say Maheshaha. So simple. So that's a part of phonetics. Sandhi is very essential to pronounce very easily and with a uniformity, etc. And so you have to combine certain letters, etc. So Sandhi is basically for the ease of pronunciation of either varnas or of the words also, because between words also we have a Sandhi. Anyway, so either varnas, so there is a consonant Sandhi and there is Swara Sandhi, etc. Anyway, I don't want to give you more headache. But what I am saying is this Pluta. This Pluta means that belongs to the Matra. And here while pronouncing this mantra, you have when Pluta comes, then it signifies something. And here it signifies that is illustration. That's how to indicate illustration. Now that particular A of that Vyadutada, A, that A is lengthened. That's all. And that is how much lengthened? 3 matras. Where Raswa means 1 matra, Dirgha means 2 matra, Pluta means 3 matras. Anyway, that's a one usage of the Pluta. Sometimes it can indicate a sense of questioning also. You might have heard Taittiriya Upanishad and so you must be knowing Kashyana Gacchati, like that. So there E is lengthened, Pluta. But there that Kashyana Gacchati, etc., that is indicating questioning. So either for questioning Pluta is used or either for giving an illustration the Pluta is used, etc., etc. So here it is in the sense of illustration or an upama. So Vidyutaha, Vyadyutada, A. So like a flash of lightning. Vidyutaha means of the lightning. And Vyadyutada means basically Vidyotanam means flash. So flash of lightning, like a flash of lightning. What? The Brahman or the Yaksha came and vanished. He came, by the time they came to know by the time they inquire who that Yaksha is, Yaksha disappeared. That's what it want to indicate. Like lightning, it came and went away. So Brahman is compared to lightning because when Indra wanted to know, Brahman just disappeared like the flash of lightning. So one cannot directly see the lightning, it blinds the eyes. One can only see a reflection on the clouds. Similarly, Brahman also disappears from the inquiring mind of the Indra. That means every Devata, even a Devata cannot get to know that Brahman by perception, inference, etc. The Devata has to be taught, as was Indra was taught by Uma. So one cannot die. It's very simple. One cannot see the Atma. One cannot objectify the Atma. That's what they want to convey. Yaksha basically in its true nature it is Brahman. And Indra wanted to know Brahman as an object. So it went it closely. But then it just disappeared. It indicates that you cannot know the Brahman like objectifying the Brahman. So here when we object, you are giving an illustration of a lightning for Brahman, but I can see the lightning reflected in the clouds or as such directly, little bit, but same way I could not see the Brahman. You are giving an illustration, comparing with the lightning. Brahman is compared with the lightning, but basically I can see the lightning, but I cannot see the Brahman. So the example cited here is not to reveal Brahman as an object. Brahman cannot be objectified because it is nature of the subject. So what Indra was, what Indra saw was not really Brahman. So he saw Ishvara in a particular form called Yaksha, and so he wanted to know the truth of that form. And when they inquire into the truth, definitely disappear. Shows that you cannot know Yaksha in its true form because that is nothing but the Brahman, that is the self, and self cannot be objectified, Brahman cannot be objectified, and that is how Yaksha disappeared from that place. So the form just disappeared like a lightning. So that is the example given here. Brahman is unlike everything else because there is no, as such also there is no example for Brahman. To give an example, one has to find out something outside Brahman, right? One Brahman and something else to compare with. So, like suppose this is a Brahman and Brahman is compared with this. So at least two things are there, but Brahman is limitless, and therefore definitely limitless means there is nothing other than that. Then what example can you give for Brahman? So only thing is, everything is ultimately Brahman. So example here is meant to confirm that it is not an object for the senses and other means of knowledge, and that is how Yaksha disappeared, like a lightning comes and disappears, and by the time suppose if you want to know the nature of lightning etc., by the time you inquire into it, just disappear. So for that purpose only we have compared with the lightning. Don't think that I am objectifying the lightning outside and it is other than me. Same way I should objectify Brahman. It is not. That is not the criteria for comparison. So only thing it is not an object for the senses and other means of knowledge. Just as lightning comes and disappears, Yaksha came and disappeared, just to show you that it is not an object of senses or other means of knowledge. That is the comparison. Then mantra says, iti, it, nyamimishada, a. Iti, it, nyamimishada, a. Again a has come. So like lightning which closes your eyes, nyamimishada. Now mish has to close the eyes. Unmission means opening the eyes. Nyamishan means closing the eyes. So lightning closes your eyes. You cannot see the lightning. Only that much is an example. That's all. So lightning example means you cannot see that they say also. Lightning should not be seen, with a naked eyes. Otherwise one can become blind also. So you can see the reflected lightning in the clouds, etc., or gets reflected on the earth. Everything becomes, gets illumined. So that reflected lightning one can see, but lightning directly one cannot see. One can become blind also. Anyway, so word iti here, iti is to point out the adesha, the teaching. They say iti shabdaha adesha pratinirdeşartah iti ayam adesha iti. Means only to point out the adesha. Adesha means the teaching. So iti indicates a teaching. Means before that whatever has been told, that is the teaching. We have compared the Brahman with the lightning. That's all it wants to convey. So if you see, tasya esha adesha yad etad vidyutah vyadyutada a iti. That's all. So This is a teaching through the illustration of the Brahman, and then illustration is that lightning. As the lightning comes and goes away, it's just a flash. Same way this Yaksha came and goes, and therefore it indicates that the nature of Yaksha is one which cannot be objectified through the senses, which cannot be objectified through the mind. That's only we want to teach you. By giving you comparison, we want to tell you that Brahman can never be available for objectification through the senses or the mind. That's all. Just as lightning comes and goes away, Yaksha came and just went, and that is to indicate that you cannot know the nature of Yaksha like you can objectify any other thing in the world. So anyway, so when you look at the lightning, the eyes close automatically, so they do not consult you basically. So if the eyes were to close after making a decision, like then by the time your mind decides that let me close the eyes, well, if you keep on seeing the lightning, well, you will be blind. So just as you cannot keep your eyes open and look at the lightning to find out how bright it is, so too when you want to see the Brahman, the mind returns, because Brahman disappears from your vicinity, because you cannot objectify them through the mind. What? Brahman. You cannot objectify through the mind. So that's what it wants to convey. Yeah, if you want to see some form for upasana, etc., well, then Yaksha form is available to you. Definitely it is available, but the Swarupa of Yaksha, well, basically that is Brahman, is not available at all for seeing. That is what we wanted to convey through the example of lightning. Iti adhidaivatam. This is the teaching with reference to Devas, the story of the Devas. Brahman is that in whose presence alone the Devas are the Devas, and whom the Devas could not understand unless they are taught by the Uma. That is the subject matter here. So, in reality, basically this adhidaivatam and adhyatmam, both are manifest form of Brahman. Both are Brahman alone manifest in form of Adhyatma. Adhyatma is individual. Adhidaivam means a total. Brahman alone manifest in this both. And so both do not have their being. The individual also cannot have the being, the existence and power of their own. And well, same way Adhidaivam means Devas also cannot have their being. Devas are the Devas on behalf of Brahman. Individual is an individual on behalf of Brahman. The very existence of, I can say, a part of the pot. The being of the pot is clay. Right? Being of the pot is clay. Part of the pot is clay. That is how I can say. Same way, Devas are Devas basically on behalf of Brahman. The very existence of the Devas is due to Brahman, because Brahman is existence, Sat. And therefore, Brahman appear in all these forms, but the forms are basically all non-separate from the Brahman. Any form, it may be an individual or it may be a Deva. So both at the level of individual or a total, they do not have their being and power of their own, and both definitely need to know Brahman through Shabda Pramana called Brahma Vidya, called Uma. And that's how Uma appeared and gave a knowledge of the Yaksha, nature of the Yaksha, Swarupa of the Yaksha, the truth of Yaksha. Well, Uma taught them that they cannot objectify directly. Either Agni, Indra or our Vayu. Either of them went very close to Yaksha, but they could not know what that Yaksha is, because Yaksha by nature is Brahman, and Brahman cannot be objectified. That's how Devas could not objectify them. Unless, with the grace of Yaksha itself, Uma appeared and taught that Yaksha is Brahman, because of whom you have got the victory. Your very existence and your all activity is due to the presence of Brahman. Well, and that is how Deva came to know their own nature. Brahman, which is all pervasive and which is existence. Well, because of whom you all are Deva, you all Devas are the Devas, or your all activities also due to that Brahman alone. And that is how Devas came to know their own nature by this, by the Uma. By revealing the nature of Yaksha, ultimately their nature is revealed. And that's how they became exalted in among all the devas. And in that also Indra became most exalted because he went very close to Yaksha. And Uma first taught him Brahma Vidya, and later Indra taught to Agni and Vayu, and all the three became exalted because of this Brahma Vidya. Now let's go to mantra number 5. Atha adhyatmam yadetat gacchati iva cha manah anena cha etad upasmarati abhikshanam sankalpah. So earlier what was told for the Adhideva, for the total, now has been told for Adhyatma. So Atha Adhyatmam now follows the teaching of Brahman centered on the Adhyatma. Adhyatma means individual. Adhyatma. Adhyatma means Adhyatma. Adhi means Adhikaranam. Adhikaranam means subject matter. When Atma is a subject matter, Atma is subject matter means here an individual is a subject matter. What is the reality of the individual? Like that. So that now that is following the teaching of Brahman with respect to individual, means individual also is Brahman. Just as Devas were told that you are basically Brahman. By revealing the nature of Yaksha, I mean they were told that you cannot objectify Yaksha, means better know you, better know that Brahman or Yaksha as yourself. That's what Uma taught them. That's how they became exalted. Same way now this individual is told. The way Devas were told, now if this individual like us have been taught what? That your real nature is Brahman. So now follows the teaching of Brahman centered on the individual. Yadetat gacchati iva cha manaha anena cha etad upasmarati iti abhikshanam sankalpaha. With reference to this individual, this vastu which has been, the Brahman which is told in the first chapter as a Shrotrasya Shrotram, Adhyatma we have to bring that. Since the story came, we connected it to Adhideva. Now we can go back to Adhyatma that has been taught. It has been, this same Brahma Vidya has been told to a individual in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So now we can go back to that mantra where it has, this Brahman is revealed as a Shrotrasya Shrotram, by whose presence alone these senses and the mind have their existence and functions. To Devas they were told that your existence and function is due to Brahman. Same way this individual is told, that your senses and mind have their existence and function due to Brahman. And then senses have their being. Existence of the senses and the activity of the senses is due to Brahman. Then senses cannot know them. Mind cannot know them. So to know this truth that the individual is Brahman, there is no other way except an external means, naturally. Because you cannot know Brahman through the senses. Because very existence of senses and the mind is due to Brahman. And therefore, basically to teach the individual that you are Brahman, ultimately some external means are required. And that is, we have seen, Uma as external means appear. And here, of course, external means we can say Uma means Brahma Vidya, that is Upanishad, teaching of the Upanishad. So, Atha Adhyatmam, here with reference to this Pratyagatma, the innermost self. Pratyagatma means innermost self. Innermost self. What is innermost? What is innermost is I. I is innermost. People sometimes think innermost means they draw the circle and they one after the other. That's how innermost means outer layer is a Annamaya Kosha. Inner is then Pranamaya Kosha. Then inner is a Manomaya Kosha. Then inner is a Vijnanamaya. Then inner is a Anandamaya. And in that they put some kind of a big dot, red dot or yellow dot, and that is Atma. Don't think that way. The I is very close to me. Nothing is close to me as close as I. Right? Even mind is not close. Even mind is not close, thought is not close to me as I. And therefore, Pratyagatma means innermost. Innermost means very near. Nearest is I. Therefore, with reference to this Pratyagatma or the I, the teaching is given that I is Brahman, like that the teaching is given. So, and Adhyatmam, as I told you, as Adhi means a topic, and Atma. Atma is a topic. I mean, this I is a topic. What is that I? What is the truth of the I? Like what is the truth of the Yaksha? Same way, what is the truth of the I? So the subject matter is called Adhyatman. And so the prefix Adhi points out the subject matter. What is the teaching? And what is that teaching? Yad Etad. This is a very, very common expression in mantras. Tam etam. Tametam atmanam, etc., etc. Tam etam. Yad etad. What is that? Yad means what is prakritam, what is under discussion. What is under discussion is Brahman, right? It has we have seen in Adhidaivatam that it is nothing but the Brahman which appeared in the form of Yaksha, etc., and that is the truth of the even Devas, etc., and the very existence of the Devas and the activity of the Devas in whose presence takes place, etc., etc. We have seen all this. So, well, what is under discussion is Brahman, which is a subject which cannot be objectified, etc., which is limitless. And that Yad indicates a Prakritam. Prakritam is which is under discussion, and that Brahman which is under discussion is Etad, is this Pratyagatma. Etad means this. This means the Pratyagatma. It is in the form of the I. So Yad means that Prakritam Brahma, that the Brahman which is under the discussion, which the Devas knew after being taught, that Brahman is Etad, is this I. So for gaining the knowledge of that Brahman alone, now Shastra engages itself in is Adhyatman, etc. So this Gnayam Brahman is Etad, means this Pratyagatma, it is in the form of I. And what is that Atma? Which is self-evident, self-revealing. So that Brahman is self-revealing and self-evident, means don't try to objectify it. Well, it is in the form of I, and I am is self-revealing. I know that, without any kind of operating any means of knowledge, well, I am is self-revealing, self-evident, self-existent, and that is Brahman. So this is how it is. So individual I am, basically that is Adharara. Without knowing this thing that I am Brahman, well, I am becomes a locus for all the mistakes. And that is what we are doing. That is what our biography is, basically. All of us have a biography, big biography. And starting from the birth and where we were born and what we did and what we studied and then at what age we married, and all this is all basically mistake connecting to I am. I am is Brahman is a Satya. But basically not knowing that I am Brahman, all this superimposition on that I am. Well, which is Prasiddha. I am is Prasiddha. You will not have to operate any means of knowledge to say I am. You can tell me, you have any means of knowledge. People say, well, Swamiji, I am also is a thought. And therefore, if, thought is there, therefore I am. That I have already told you. Well, without thought also you exist. And sometimes you stop thinking also. And then still you are existing. And telling that my mind just suddenly stopped, I don't know. Swamiji, I could not think at that moment. When I saw that person, and I was so amazed, or I got so scared, or something, whatever. I could not think, Swamiji. My mind just stopped. So even in absence of mind, you are existent, sir. And one more example is your own experience is a deep sleep state. Well, no thoughts are there. Don't say that I am also not there. So just as thoughts are, because the thoughts are there, I am there. That's a not correct logic. Since you are there, thinking takes place. And therefore you are a conscious being, because of which, well, definitely even the mind functions. You are present all the time as a consciousness. Because of that consciousness, all the organs, manaso manaha, remember that, manaso manaha, the very thinking takes place on the part of the mind in presence of you. And so we have said Shotrasya Shotram, Manaso Manaha, Pranasya Pranaha, etc. etc. So that Gnayam Brahma will basically is that which is to be known, which is not known in absence of that. Well, I am has become a locus for all the mistakes. And now if I know the Brahman, which is Adhishthanam, and whose knowledge will remove all these wrong notions about myself. And that Brahman is revealed as I am. I am. That's amazing thing. You can imagine. So like Yaksha, Yaksha, it is prasiddha for everyone. But and it's so enchanting form. I had that question earlier. Why should they go? Yaksha has appeared. Let it be there. Like many people have, suppose somebody comes in ashram. Why should I know that from where he has come and who is that person and why he has come? And so what a big deal, and why we should ask about that? But the form was so enchanting. Even Devatas felt that such a form they have not seen in any loka. So Ishvara took such a form and so attracting form, and therefore they thought we should know who is this Yaksha. And that's how they got attracted. But actually that is Brahman, and therefore they failed. They could not objectify it, and ultimately Uma appeared and gave a knowledge. So Yadetat Brahma, so that Brahman which is Prakrutam, which is under the discussion, is this Etat, is this individual. Basically not Pratyatma means I. I means basically whatever you say in I right now. You say I am a body, well that is Brahman. I am mind, that is Brahman. I am senses, oh that is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. Brahman being limitless, the very word Brahman indicates it is limitless, and therefore in an individual whatever you say as I is Brahman. And therefore ultimately everything is Brahman. It has been so. So individual also, well, is told that you are Brahman. Manaha gacchati iva. The mind goes as though. Mind goes towards Brahman, and that is the self. So Agni, Vayu, Indra all went very near Brahman as though, but they did not understand still. Similarly, here also mind goes as though. While you are listening to when you are listening Upanishad, etc., your mind as though goes towards Brahman. As though. Could not illumine Brahman, could not objectify Brahman, could not know the Brahman, because it is not an object, but it as though go. So gacchati iva, as though go. What? Manaha, mind goes as though towards Brahman, because it has to know, and therefore anything that mind has to know ultimately, it has to go towards that object and objectify. And so if a flower is to be known, the mind has to objectify the flower and assume the mind has to assume the form of a flower. So now the mind is listening, basically mind is gaining the knowledge of Brahman through the teacher, etc. So mind wants to go towards Brahman and objectify it. Mind wants to assume a form of a Brahman, but it could not. So it says eva, as though, means they could not. Why it is like that? Why it is like this? Because there is a reason. We'll see that tomorrow. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.